Hi, my name's Lucas McNally. I used to be an independent filmmaker, and for a while I was a crowdfunding consultant. And then I got married and had a kid, and now I help my wife with her soap business, which is something that you should all be using to wash your hands. Um, when the coronavirus pandemic sort of hit, my wife asked, because she was paying much more attention to this than I was, do you think there's going to be a resurgence of crowdfunding when we come out of this? And the more I thought about it, the more I think, yeah, probably, maybe in some form. But I don't think we know what that is. Here's what I know. I know that the entire country is going to be at home, sitting around doing nothing. And if I know independent filmmakers or writers or musicians or crafters or really anyone, they're going to be working on a project. This is kind of the perfect time to work on a project that where you have need a lot of time and can sort of set up around you. And I imagine there are 100 walls in Brooklyn with note cards already stuck to them, trying to figure out whatever it is they're making. So when we come out of this and we're all able to go places again, there's going to be a lot of projects that are done that need a new step. They are screenplays or books or records or whatever. And what the fuck do we do with them? The economy is going to be destroyed. We might not have movie theaters. We might not have restaurants. Nobody fucking knows. It could be in 2 months. It could be in 18 months. It could be anywhere in between. For fuck's sake, we don't even have basketball right now. We don't have sports of any kind. So it occurred to me that the way to do this would be to do a podcast where, first of all, I get caught up on what's been happening in the last 4 years since I last ran a crowdfunding campaign. And then we sort of try to figure out what the fuck comes next and what do we do with it. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to interview a bunch of people, and I'm going to work through that with them and try to figure out what the next steps are going to be, and try to help you as fellow creatives figure out what you do next and how you take advantage, if possible, of this landscape that is basically quicksand. So that's what we're going to do. First episode is tonight. I'm waiting for Marty Lang to get out of his class that he's teaching at the University of Central Arkansas. And we'll talk to Marty for a little bit. And then we're just going to go from there. It's pretty seat of the pants. They say you should bank a bunch of episodes before you do this, but I feel like in the time it takes to do that, like everything's going to change. So fuck it. We'll just do them as we do them. We don't have a title for this yet, but it'll be fun. All right. So without further ado, we're going to talk to Marty Lang now. All right. So we're here with my old friend Marty Lang. Marty is a professor of film at the University of Central Arkansas, which is where Scottie Pippen went to college.
That's right.
They are the Bears of the Southland Conference, and they were eliminated prior to March Madness being eliminated. So this didn't affect them at all.
No.
So thanks for talking to me, Marty.
Yeah, man, good to be here.
So we go way back, farther back than we'd like to admit, because that would involve us being that much older. But you and I were around for when Kickstarter took off, like the very first wave of it. And now you teach crowdfunding at Central Arkansas. Mm-hmm. So I guess my first question is for you is let's go further. So when crowdfunding first happened, there was a bunch of us who figured it out pretty quickly, and then then we sort of had to convince everybody else over the next 4 years before there was this sort of buy-in where people were like, no, I understand what's going on now. Do you find that it's easier with this new crowd?
I think it's easier for people to understand what it is, just because of the fact that it is so ubiquitous now. When we were coming up, I can't believe I just said that. It was a nebulous concept. People didn't really understand what it was. So it took a lot more explanation to try to get somebody interested in what the process was. Now, if you talk to, someone in school, my first class, I asked everybody, okay, so who's heard of Kickstarter? Just about everybody raised their hands. Who's heard of Indiegogo? a few less than, the whole class who started a Kickstarter or Seed and Spark, and about half the class. So they know where it's happening and they know generally what it is. What's harder for them, which I also think was harder for us, was the idea of, okay, how do we do it? And how do we figure out a successful plan to get the resources that we need?
Right, and we had to sort of make that up as we went along because it sort of changed every campaign. Every time there was a different campaign, we went, "Oh, that doesn't work at all."
Right.
That seemed like a good idea.
Yeah, I mean that's a big benefit of it now is we've got 10 years worth of data.
Right.
That we can look at, and we have a little bit of an idea of what it's supposed to look like,
Okay.
which is a big benefit, for students now. They have that to look back on.
Yeah, so now there's an actual like case history to look at. It's similar to what's going on with this stupid fucking virus where every day we're like, "Oh, this okay, now we know a little bit more about it and we know more now than we did a month ago and
Yeah.
hopefully in 2 months we'll know a lot more, hopefully."
Right.
But considering who's in charge, maybe not. We might all be dead.
Never know. Yeah.
This would be pretty pointless. Okay, so part of the genesis of this, and this is episode 1 of whatever the hell this ends up being, was that my wife thought, and I immediately realized she's smarter than I am, and she's been way ahead of this because I've been paying attention to basketball season, and she's been reading the news. So I'm like, let me tell you about Marcus Smart, and she's like, let me tell you about this virus in China. So she's like 2 weeks ahead of me and knows. She's like, do you think crowdfunding is going to come back in a big way because the economy is going to die? Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think it's coming back? Do you think I feel like it dropped down some.
Well, I think it will certainly have a big resurgence whenever we're on the other end of the pandemic. Obviously, we don't know when that's going to be, right. But I think the idea of people being cooped up for as long a period as they are and looking to the arts to try to help them get through it, I think is something that's going to be a benefit to crowdfunders down the line. I think the idea of people being online more is going to play into that kind of thing. And, it's possible people might look at going to see movies in a different light after this. Right. You watch a film on Netflix, you have the experience of watching the movie and then that's it. Maybe people might want more. And if they do, then a crowdfunding campaign can definitely be something that can offer them more than just the experience of watching the finished product. They might have a chance to learn how it was made.
I kind of wonder if there's going to be an influx. I wonder if the campaigns that will do really well as the pandemic is ending, or maybe even before it ends, are the ones that sort of give you an escape from your house in some way.
I definitely think that's going to be something. I tend to believe that the films that have more of a positive, not message, but I mean like, more comedies, dramedies, I have a feeling are going to be the kinds of films that'll be effective in this. The film that I'm working on crowdfunding is an interesting case because it's not that. We're making a film that's a straight drama. And it's a drama about mental illness. So, we're going into this not exactly creating content that's much different than what people are dealing with right now.
You really thought this out.
Yeah. What I'm hoping, though, is that we'll be able to, convince people that this film can help you in dealing with some of these things. Because it's a film about mental health advocacy, and the importance of being there for people that are struggling. And, much as I hate saying it, there are going to be people that are going to struggle through this.
Sure.
So, the hope is that, this film might be able to give you a few more tools to help you get through that. And then hopefully, as a result of that, people may want to get on board.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a struggle. I mean, I'm getting $500 for a kid. So, I mean, that's just so much money. Yeah, so much money. It's, only half of what he eats in a week. So, so one of my questions here is, so the last campaign I worked on, because for those of you who don't know, I used to be a consultant. So the last campaign I worked on was the Money and Violence campaign for Seed and Spark. And that was I just looked it up, in July of 2015.
Okay.
So, which is a long time ago. And then I ended up getting a kid. and a house and just sort of, you know, life.
Non-crowdfunding stuff. Yeah.
Like, yeah, life happened, and we had something go viral at work, and it was a mess. Anyway, so what's changed? That's forever in the internet.
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm an old man. I'm like, trying to figure out the TikTok.
Well, the thing I'm noticing is that the campaigns I'm seeing now, and I have to say this up front, I focus mostly on Seed and Spark as far as the stuff that I keep up on. I haven't followed Kickstarter because of the union stuff, and Indiegogo wasn't really that big of a fan of them anyway.
No.
Seed and Spark campaigns that I've seen tend to be a little bit more structured in the way they go through their 30 days. So whereas before, back in the age of the first wave, you would just sort of throw everything out right at the beginning, all the cool ideas that you have, all the cool perks that you have, all the cool promotions that you got, you kind of throw that all out up top with the hope that, you'll get the people to come and support you right at the beginning. Now what I'm seeing is these campaigns tend to be a little bit more structured, and they tend to go through different themes, I guess would be the right way to say it. So each week of a campaign, your campaign may concentrate on a different topic. So for example, for Stay With Me, the campaign that we start on Monday, we're going to start the first week with first person accounts of how mental health advocacy helped a person get through a certain hard time of life. And I've got some people who are doing videos for us that we're going to be putting out. And that's sort of like, okay, this is the biggest reason why we're putting this film out here. And here's some examples of people that are doing it, that have experienced this and the positive aspects of it in real life. Second week, we're going to be focusing on the class that I'm teaching. And okay, this is a class full of crowdfunding students. Here's a couple of them this week, and they're going to tell you why they got involved with the class. They're going to tell you the projects that they want to crowdfund themselves once the campaign is over. And then that would be week 2, and then so on and so forth throughout the campaign. So I think there's a little bit more organization with the campaigns that I've seen now, as opposed to trying to throw everything in the kitchen sink right off the bat, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But most of the time, the basics of it are the same. It's just trying to build up an audience. I think one of the big things now that we've had the benefit of 10 years since we first started was, we have audiences now that can be quantified. I have a mailing list that's over 1,000 names. So that's a benefit that I have now that I didn't have 10 years ago.
Right.
But I was smart enough to keep those email addresses, as time went on. So now that we got this ready to go, I don't have to worry so much about blasting on Facebook like we used to do, or blasting on Twitter. Yeah. We can actually put a list of emails together and start emailing people directly with the hope that we can get backers that way.
Right. And you just hope those emails still work.
As of right now, 80% of them do. So.
Oh, well, there you go. You said, hey, buddy, what are you doing?
Hey, is this Reese?
This is Reese.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, can you say hi?
Hi.
He can't hear you, but do you want to say hi? Can you say hi?
I'm Marty. I'm Daddy's friend. Hello.
Okay,
hey.
He doesn't know what's going on.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, buddy. Hey, can you go see sisters? Yeah. Okay. So that's why I haven't been crowdfunding recently, because of that. And he's back. We're back. Hey, buddy.
Hey,
you want the headphones on?
Hi, Reese. Hey, buddy. My name is Marty. Hi.
You crazy. All right. So all right. He's going to want to sit here.
Cool.
Right,
cool.
So we'll do this. Reese, you'll be, well, not famous, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a thing. Okay. This is going really well. Okay. So do you think that's structured? Do you think that's a Seed and Spark thing? Because they train people better than anybody else.
Yeah, I honestly think it is. The one benefit Seed and Spark's got over everybody else is the fact that they have real live people that actually assist the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think is one of the biggest benefits of that. But I think generally, because people understand what campaigns look like because they've been around longer and they may have seen more.
Yeah.
People can come into it with a little bit more advanced of a view, of how they can take advantage of those 30 days.
You want this book? Oh, it's his book.
Oh.
So this book will do a plug for the book.
Ooh.
Go show that to mommy. Can you go show that to mommy? Okay. See you later. All right. Say bye-bye.
Bye, Reese.
He isn't. Okay. All right. So you were saying, because I've lost track of what you were saying. Baby. Yes. Okay. Girls, come get him.
No.
No.
I think the opening part of this is perfect to have him in that video, by the way.
Yeah. It's smooth. It's smooth. Here, come get him. There we go. I know. Here, take the book with you. Bye, buddy. Just working for a child's just a good birth control for you?
Buddy, I don't need any more. I'm totally fine.
Do you actually leave the whole thing in, or should I cut part of that? I think maybe some jump cuts in the middle of that.
Oh, that might be
the way
funny.
to do it. Yeah.
Like start a question, I start answering it.
Yeah.
Throw him in.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So they have it more structured because they're training because they have actual people there.
Yeah.
And so like in the old days, you would just have people sort of throw things at the wall. But is it kind of like how we sort of know more about film, and so we know there's that structure. There's that 3-act structure that we're expecting everybody to follow, whereas before, in like the 20s, they just didn't know. They were just sort of winging it.
Well, that's kind of interesting. I never really thought of it that way. Yeah, the normal curve of a campaign kind of mirrors that rising action of a 3-act structure to begin with. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's something people are sort of internalizing a little bit more.
Yeah.
I never thought of it like that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Look at that. Did you hear that? I had a good idea. He didn't care.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care. All right. So, what has the experience been like for teaching for you? Because you've always kind of done that a little. So.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I mean, I taught for about 7 years at a small school in Connecticut, and had a great time there. And when I moved to California, I thought that I'd be working full time in production, but it didn't work out that way. So I thought, all right, well, I've got the experience teaching. See if I can find some kind of tenure track job somewhere. And it worked out after I worked a little bit in California. I was able to get one. And it's been incredible. I understand why people fight so hard for tenure track positions, because the amount of influence that you have at the school and the amount of influence you have with the kids, like it's great. It's really great.
Plus it's hard to fire you.
Once you're tenured, yes.
Yeah.
So that's still 4 years off for me. But
I mean, and that's a pretty good advantage, especially now.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the other thing that's interesting too, as it relates to crowdfunding, is that this was one of the reasons why I was brought in, because no one else was offering this as something that they knew and something that they could teach. So like all the faculty that I had talked to, and I went to probably 4 or 5 different schools to interview before I accepted the job at UCA. Every time I brought up crowdfunding, there was a mixture of excitement and confusion, because everybody knew this was something that students needed to learn, but nobody knows how to teach it. So, and even me, I mean, I'm learning so much this semester, pandemic aside, the next time I teach this, it's going to be a lot different. It's going to be a lot better, I think.
Right. And you won't have a redheaded toddler coming in every 5 minutes.
Oh, but that makes the class.
That would, he goes with his grandmother. His grandmother teaches art once a week, and he goes with her and does it. And it just does this. He just disrupts the whole thing the whole time. But he,
but he's cute, so he gets away.
He's very cute. He gets away with whatever he wants because he's cute. It's like Steph Curry's daughter, but different.
Give it a couple years.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But it's not the NBA final. Yeah, no, not right now.
You'll need to give him an Instagram page, Reese the Redhead.
Oh.
That'll get to 1 million followers.
Can you go see mommy? Babe, can you come get him? Go see mommy. Mommy has chocolate milk and car shows. Mommy has car shows.
This is going to make for some great jumping.
It's gonna, yeah. All right, come on, get up here. Nobody's listening, apparently. Nobody can hear me. All right, we're not gonna read this book right now, okay? Here, you can read this book. So we'll cut this short. All right, so Marty, tell me about the project that launches. Well, it'll have already launched by the time this is up.
Yep. So the campaign is for a feature film called "Stay With Me." It's a feature drama. We shot it last summer. We filmed it in Los Angeles, in a town called Flora Hills. And it's basically about a young woman who's in her mid-20s. She's suffering from borderline personality disorder, and she's got her best friend and her new boyfriend that are struggling to kind of help her with the problems that disorder presents.
Okay.
So it's a story about, mental health advocacy and kind of the struggle of learning if there's things that you cannot deal with or that you don't know how to deal with and how you process that. So it's definitely, it's more dramatic than my last film, than Rising Star Wars. I also co-wrote it. I had a friend who I worked with at Cal State Northridge who's just graduated from the undergrad screenwriting program, so he's 22. So that's who also wrote it, which was a very interesting experience. So we got kind of the younger perspective, and then the older perspective of looking back on it.
Okay.
So it's kind of an interesting mix of those things. But yeah, we're going to start. The campaign starts on March 30th. We launch in the middle of my crowdfunding class.
Sure.
And then, we've got 30 days to try to raise $14,000. Our original goal was $22,000 because we wanted to include distribution as part of the raise. But given the circumstances, we talked about it, and we figure if we can raise 14, we can finish the movie, and then we'll have a little bit of money left over to try to get it out to a couple big festivals. And our other hope is that Seed Spark has that if you get a certain amount of followers, you get waivers to film festivals as well.
Right.
We're trying to build that into the strategy here, where if we can get that certain amount of followers, that can help to offset the money that we're not trying to raise.
Was part of the reason you dropped the number because there was a global pandemic?
Yes, that was the biggest reason, actually.
Hey, go, sister.
We had been working on the campaign since about November. And 22,000 was the original number, but then once everything started happening in early March, we kind of revisited it and said, okay, what's the least that we can raise that would allow the film to get finished?
That you can get away with.
Right. So 14,000 plus with Seed and Spark, we keep the money at 80%. So that's like 11,002, I think. That would be enough for us to finish the movie.
And really, no one's crowdfunding right now for all of the reasons. But you said to me earlier that the part of the reason you are is because it's part of the class.
Yeah, I mean, these students, we've been building up to this campaign since the middle of January. So all the classroom exercises that we've had and all the lectures have specifically tied into this film. Like, I've showed them the current cut of the movie. We all worked on putting the pitch video together. So all of these different things were tied into this campaign specifically. So I think with us being able to go through the process of doing it, there's two things that I think can come from it. One thing that I talk a lot about in the class is the idea of failure and how going through
the hell of a teacher.
Well, it's the reality of it. Like, there are things that you're going to try that aren't going to work. So, how hypocritical would I be if I said, okay, this doesn't look like it's the right time to run this campaign,
right.
We'll do it later. By going through with it, they're going to understand, every campaign is going to have some kind of challenge. And hopefully this will be the worst challenge or the biggest challenge that any crowdfunder could possibly deal with. But the other thing with that too is, if we're able to complete the campaign and reach our goal, then no student has an excuse anymore.
Right.
So I think it's kind of a win-win from that point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the campaign, Jack's campaign, where there was a gun as the main image, and then there were like 5 major school shootings during the campaign. I thought that was kind of hard to overcome, but this is much, much worse. Yeah,
it is. It is. But I mean, whatever tie-in you can have to what's currently going on in the world, if you can use it to your advantage, it makes sense to try. And the fact that a lot of people are going to be dealing with mental health issues, if not now, fairly soon, as a result of this, this is a film that speaks to that, and hopefully, people can look at it as an opportunity to kind of learn and pick up some new tricks that might help them in their own lives.
Do you have planned some sort of promotion for when the stimulus checks hit? So to be like, because it's like everybody's flushed. You got $1,200, man.
I did not until just now.
That's what I would have launched on the day. I would have launched the day the stimulus checks hit people's inboxes or bank accounts.
Well,
and so then you're like, oh, it's payday, man.
From what I understand, I think it's about another 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks until they hit. So we'll be about halfway through the campaign. I will absolutely make that a point of our promotion.
Or maybe maybe the unemployment people, the unemployment bump, that extra $600.
That could potentially help. But the thing with that, though, is you need to be, I think in this time, you need to be careful with the way you approach those kinds of things, because I know a lot of people that work in the film industry specifically, are out of work now. And,
definitely.
And their responses to this campaign have almost uniformly been, why are you doing this now?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I explained to them the way that we just talked. That there's definitely a possible opportunity in that, but I think the way you approach that, I think, is the key to it.
Yeah, you have to. That's a tough thing to land, but if you land it, it could work. It's just, if you miss it, it could be really bad.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But if you can be funny about it, maybe it works. Maybe.
Yeah. No, I definitely.
I would test it with 16 different people before I actually tried it, but.
And that's why we have a crowdfunding class, is to do that research. So.
There you go. Test it with everybody's parents, and if all their parents go, no, that makes sense, then you go, all right, yeah, we'll give it a shot. What the hell? Yeah. All right. I think that was all my questions. I got thrown in the middle there because it all sort of fell apart for a few minutes.
That's okay.
Who the hell knows? Okay. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: Have you gotten any feelers from people about consulting at all?
Not recently, but I haven't. I get them every so often, just in general, but I haven't gotten any recently, and I pretty much universally just don't do them because I just don't have time.
Yeah.
And in general, just haven't had time. But summer is when I have a little more time. And then I also direct road races.
Oh.
Here throughout the year, and that's looking like that's not going to happen for a little while. Right. So that might free up my schedule a little bit.
Does that work?
Huh? Yeah, I get paid. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's great.
It's easier than running the races because there's less sweat involved, but it's a lot more stressful.
That's a good trade-off, though. Paycheck.
Yeah, it's like directing a movie. It's way easier than directing a movie, but it's the same idea of like trying to marshal forces and like all these different balls you have to juggle and whatever. But it's like a day as opposed to a month, and there's no post-production. And really, once the race starts, it's over. You're just sort of like waiting to make sure nobody needs an ambulance once the race actually kicks off. That's so it's funny. Imagine if there was like, if you're directing a film and it was all pre-production, and then you had one day, you got the first shot, and then you're like, all right, we're done. That's pretty much it.
That's a movie I want to make.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. If I had a film that was like a post-apocalyptic film, I would be out with a camera in these empty cities, getting so much fucking B-roll.
I've actually talked with my girlfriend about doing that exact thing. Yep. If things get bad around here, I think we're gonna go out and do some of that stuff. We have a red Scarlet at school.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I might go out and shoot some of that.
Yeah, like I don't need it for anything, but I'm in Maine, Midcoast Maine. There's nothing. It looks the same, but
right.
But yeah, if I was in like New York or Boston or any city like that, I'd be like, oh hell yeah.
Yeah. And then God forbid, I mean, if for nothing else, you'll have cool B-roll that you can put on Pond 5 or something like that.
Well, I bet what happens is somebody will have a big post-apocalyptic indie film, and they will recruit people in like 5 or 6 different major cities to go shoot B-roll footage. So then you have like the scope of it. And of course it'll be a zombie movie.
Right.
you know, but you'll have the scope of all these, like, well, here's Boston, here's Chicago, here's New York.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be something.
That's what I would do.
I feel bad for the Sundance programmers because they're going to get at least 50 different movies about a couple who get stuck in an apartment because of the pandemic, and they end up having all sorts of drama because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I already thought of a plot for one. So
yeah, so I'm waiting for the one night stand movie stuck in a pandemic motel or something. You know,
yeah, there's gonna be that. There's gonna be the one. The one I thought of is where you get into the first day of your 14-day quarantine, and then the guy calls who traces people and tries to figure out like oh, who have this been in proximity with, but like it's a stripper who gets it or something, and like calls, or it's like a prostitute, and it's like, how do you know Tiffany or Portia? Like,
that's the name of the movie. How do you know Tiffany?
How do you know Tiffany? Yeah, something like that. And then I thought you were at work.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully I'm glad I'm not a programmer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be, I feel bad for him. It's gonna be brutal.
Yeah.
All right. So Marty, thanks for being here. We'll have to do one of these where there are no toddlers.
Absolutely. Yes.
Later when I figured out more things, and then you can tell me what other people have told me that's wrong.
Okay. Yeah, happy to do a wrap up when the campaign is done.
Yeah.
Things that we learned.
Yeah, you can learn what it's like to try to crowdfund in the middle of a pandemic when no one has any money. You'll probably look like that. All right, so Marty's campaign is Stay With Me. It is on Seed and Spark. It will be wonderful. It will desperately need your money because no one has any money. Give them $5.
It would be amazing.
It
Any
would be
help?
a big help.
We'd love for you to join the team.
All right, thank you so much, Marty.
Come on, just come on. Yeah, we're gonna come on. Okay, so that was Marty. This is we're recording this now on Monday. It is about 7:30. Stay With Me launched around 5 o'clock, and it is at $1,355, which is a fantastic start. Under the old sort of model, that they would pretty much be assured that they were going to get there with that sort of start, but no one really knows because.
Come on.
Yes, I know we're going to go. What do you want to do in the other room? You want to watch car shows? You want to watch car shows?
Not in the living room.
Not in the living room? Okay.
The other room.
All right. So thank you for listening.
Like this.
Tune in for the next episode, which we're not sure who that will be. For Reese Tucker right here. Reese, say bye. Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, you dropped your tomato.